Most Black women in the UK have negative net worth.
Mm.
They're the only racial group that has a negative net worth. The Asians do not. The
Wow.
whites do not.
Wow.
It is the biggest group of negative net worth is Black African women. People, if
Wow.
you've been paying rent for X amount of years, that is a good indication that you're able to maintain a home. You're able.
So you bought the house 6 or 7 thousand pounds, and how many years later you sold it for 500,000, right?
We
That,
sold it around 9 years later for £550,000.
mm,
You've got to have your money working harder than you are for yourself, right? When people don't invest, they're going to spend their money paying off bills. You
mm.
have to have a bias to action forward. My children cannot start where I started. You know, they've got to start where I finish.
Our guest today is none other but Sarah Stephen, the co-founder of Rehoboth and Stephen, a leading real estate development company in the UK. Thank you for joining us today, Sarah.
You're more than welcome, Tommy. It's so lovely to see you looking beautiful.
I mean, of course, you are looking amazing as well. I think that weather is really doing, it's really working well. Don't you think so?
Let's not talk about the UK weather. The UK weather has many characteristics, and right now it's freezing.
I know, right? Right. But it just looked good on you. So thank you for joining us today. So,
Well, thank you.
Sarah, you are a renowned real estate investor. And I knew that it was really important to bring you on my YouTube channel because here we tell stories, right? Investment stories. But not only do you have your own personal investment stories, you also have helped multiple other people, women as well, invest in real estate. So we're here to hear all about all of those stories today, right? So let's start with you first. How did you get started investing in real estate? Like, tell me from ground zero, what piqued your
Congrats.
interest in real estate investing?
I think what really kickstarted my real estate journey was the experience that my mum had in the UK. I'm obviously of Nigerian descent, and my mother came over to the UK in I would say, her mid-30s, and she had a really challenging time. You know, she had to do menial jobs like cleaning schools, working at the post office. And it just wasn't enough for her to find a place to live, for us to find a place to live. Now, how it kind of normally happened back then is that when people come across from Nigeria, they would often have relatives that they'll be staying with. So, you know, friends and family would accommodate them, but there's only so long that you can stay under somebody's roof before you start to feel like you are a burden. You know, and for somebody like my mother, who's quite tenacious, quite a go-getter, she felt that maybe it was time for her to find something else. But every time she tried to find a property, she was too late. So how it works in the UK, or how it worked then, is there's something called social housing. So it's a governmental property that you're given. And often mothers with children are put at the very top of the waiting list. So, but because of the job that she was doing, these long hours, she was never on time to queue. So by the time she got to the housing office, it will be closed. So one day she took matters into her own hands. She picked me up from school, and I noticed that she had a black bag, a black plastic with her.
Mhm.
And by the time we got to the housing office, which is Brixton, she decided to let me know then that we were going to be sleeping in front of the housing office, and that by morning, indeed, they will find her there, and she'll be at the first in the queue. And I was so traumatized by that experience. You know, I just couldn't believe that it had to get to that in order to get a roof over your head, in order to break through in the UK. And lo and behold, the next day, you know, we were first in the queue, and we did get the temporary accommodation. But I made a vow that day that I don't believe it has to get to that point in order for somebody to have to make that kind of drastic decision, for you to be at your wits' end. And so from that day, I made a vow that I will never not have a roof over my head. I'm going to look into what this real estate industry is about, and I'm going to make sure that moving forward, I will have that house. And I did. So my mother and I purchased the first property together. So we co-invested together, age 17. and we bought a lovely, lovely apartment in a great location. And she didn't pay much for it. I think I remember we only paid around £67,000 for it. And when we eventually sold it to buy something else, we sold it for over £500,000.
Wow. So, I mean, let's walk through that, right? So you co-invested in your mom at the age of 17 to buy the
Yeah,
apartment, right? That you got from social housing, right? That's what it's called,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
So
that's such a remarkable story because, based on your experience of having to sleep overnight in front of that office, you decided that you were never going to be homeless, you were going to home real estate. And you didn't stop at that. At age 17, what kind of cash flow did you have to
I
co-invest?
didn't have any. Didn't have anything at all. What we did have was that she obviously had a little bit of money, but also remember everything has to be, in context. So at that time you didn't have to have deposits, right? So they were doing zero deposit. You didn't really need to have any money. All you had to do was you should be able to demonstrate that you could pay the mortgage. And this is what I say to people: if you've been paying rent for X amount of years, that is a good indication that you're able to maintain a home. You're able to show that you can look after this asset. So with her and also with my help in terms of going to the bank, the lender, explaining all the documentations to them, they were able to give us a mortgage with a 0% deposit. So we took advantage of that.
Wow. So you bought the house £67,000, and how many years later you sold it for £500,000, right?
We sold it around 9 years later for £550,000.
Wow.
And that money, it's funny then because that money then went to buy on two more properties. So she bought another property. I then bought a property for myself as well.
Wow. So talk about sowing the right seeds, right? So I know you bought your second property at the age of 28, basically a decade after, which is kind of like close to 9 years after that. And then you bought your third property the year after that, and the fourth property the year.
Yeah.
It was like you just couldn't have enough.
Yeah.
And today
You know what it is, Tommy? I realized something. I realized that you've got to have your money, you've got to put your money to work. You've got to have your money working harder than you are for yourself, right? That is how smart people do it. You don't have to be killing yourself because there's only one of you. And the smartest investors that I work with and I work for, they always put their money to work. And so that's what I did. I realized that, I did the math. The math is really easy. I bought 9 years ago at 67,000. I sold at 550,000. I'm now buying something else. It's just a one bed for myself for 215,000. I calculated it's going to be worth £500,000 in the next 9 or 10 years. So I need to buy as much as I can before the price goes up so I don't have to pay that premium.
So, Sarah, how many properties do you own now?
Oh, God. Me. I own a few properties. I have to because, women need more money.
So
right?
I mean, if you just continue on the trajectory, you buy the property every year. You probably are 10, 15 right now. That's just an estimate anyway. But I mean, that's amazing, right? The fact that story basically challenged you and inspired you to build a portfolio of real estate. In the UK, do you own real estate in any other country apart from the UK?
I do. I own real estate in Abuja.
Oh, yeah, Nigeria, right. I mean, we'll talk about that probably later on and why was that a sentimental decision or what led to that? But we'll get to that quickly. And I think what I really wanted to get started with is what are the key factors really that go into getting a good real estate deal in the UK? Right. Because I mean, just to add to that, I know that beyond owning real estate, you also work in real estate, right? You went on to work with one of the leading real estate companies in the UK, right? And that really, really deepened your expertise, your knowledge, and your experience in that space. So you're not only an investor, you're also an expert and well-renowned, someone who's very knowledgeable. So tell me about that. What are the key factors? So I'm a beginner today, and let's say I'm in the UK, I'm an immigrant, for instance. And I really want to get into this real estate investment game. What are the key factors that go into getting this deal?
I think it's the people that you move with. It's a mindset thing. Often people say, oh, I don't have enough. You know, I've only got small amount. You can actually start with a very small pot. And if you change your mindset, you will think of creative ways in which to grow your money. So, for example, if I only have £10,000, I can find somebody else who has another £10,000, and we can come together and we can buy an asset together and let that asset then grow our capital for us. So it's the mindset. It's also about, what do you read more? Do you read bad news more than good news? Because in if the more you read bad news, the more you're going to be scared to let the money go, right? But the money is going to be spent anyway, whether you like it or not. And most times when people don't invest, they're going to spend their money paying off bills. That's just the truth of the matter, right? So I would go and say that every time there's a disruption, every time there is recession, every time the government is saying don't do something, that is probably the best time to do it, because the market is a bit unstable. You can get better deals, right? So you've got to come from a place of abundance. You've got to sit in a place of abundance. You can't sit in a place of scarcity. You can't sit in the place of lack. You can't sit in the place of I can't, because that will start to manifest itself. So you have to sit in a place of I will. You can go, even if you have like, I don't know, maybe someone's got £20,000. You can go somewhere up north and get something really, really, not too expensive. So real estate can happen in any way. You can invest in real estate. Investors in put the money down for 6 months, grow it for a little bit, or grow it for 12 months, and then you get your return on it. But it starts with the action. You have to have a bias to action. You have to do something, because by talking about it over and over again, it's really not going to work out. So, I would say you can co-invest, you can invest in real estate, let the money grow. And also you just have to, every time there's a disruption, every time there's recession, every time, someone's saying don't do it, that's possibly the best time to do it.
Absolutely. I was just going to scream, preach, Sarah. Right. When you start to talk about the abundance mindset and scarcity mindset, and it's just the same thing across the board, right? It's how you think determines your actions. And then the circle you move with, so key. I mean, I had a guest on the other day who said that first time she got in, the circle was all about, working in care services, and she knew she had to change the circle. Nothing wrong with working in care services, but that's just what everybody has to do. Don't think because you're an immigrant, you have to settle for that, right? So such great.
Do you know what? Just to touch on that, it's so sad because people will sell you their story. You have to be careful. Don't buy somebody's story just because they had a challenging time in the UK doesn't mean you're going to have a challenging time in the UK, right? You have to know where your frame is. Frame yourself, frame your story yourself. Know where you sit and know where you live, right? Some people are going to be saying, there's a shortage. I don't see that shortage. I don't experience that shortage because I am so robust and focused. I'm like a dog looking for a bone. And if you have that kind of energy, that kind of I can attitude, it's going to happen. It will definitely happen. So you don't have to follow somebody else's story or narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into the nitty-gritty, right? What are your key lessons from building like a portfolio? So let's say, I want to tap into your decades of experience in 10 minutes, right? What are your key lessons that you would share for someone who's looking to build a real estate or start building a real estate investment portfolio today?
I think you need to ask yourself why. Why are you starting that real estate portfolio? Because your why is what's going to sustain you. Your why is what's going to get you through the hard times. Why is what's going to get you through when the market drops? Because the market will drop. It's risk. There's a risk element to it. It's investment. Everything is not going to be rosy. And because what you find is that when people buy and there's a disruption, they quickly sell, right? Because their why was never obvious to them, and their why is not their core. They don't understand why they're doing what they're doing. So my key advice or guidance is know your why. Why are you doing this? So for example, I am investing in real estate. I'm putting together a portfolio so I can get freedom. Freedom to spend more time with the people that I love. Freedom to know that I won't have to work. I can choose not to work, but also freedom to do what I want to do, right? My real estate portfolio is going to be giving me the income so I can still maintain a certain standard of living. Also, I believe it's a bit poor for me as a mother to allow my children to start where I started. I did not start where my mother started. She gave me the leg up because she decided to take matters into her own hands. And I think in terms of legacy, in terms of paying it forward, my children cannot start where I started. They've got to start where I finish. So with that in mind, you've also got to have an understanding of, what is the bare minimum I need to live off, right?
Yeah.
What is the bare minimum I need these assets to be making for me after my bills are all paid, right? So you have to remove the bills, you have to remove the taxes. What is the bare minimum I need each month? Once you have that figure, you can then start to buy in accordance to those numbers. So by the time you have those properties have gone to work for you and you're comfortable. You're not so moved. So for example, if the market moves and the rent drops or the property prices drops, remember, you've done your numbers. You know your bare minimum.
Yeah.
And after doing all these deductions, you are still going to have your bare minimum. So that gives you that confidence to really go for it. So those would be my guidance. Your why, pay it forward, know your numbers, and sit comfortably.
Amazing, right? Thank you for those points. And I would like to really dig into knowing your numbers, but just before that, let's talk about the current market. I mean, like you said, markets change, markets move, there's a lot of opportunity, people are asking questions. And most people probably just think that, buying real estate in central London right now is way above my budget, right? So what areas do you see future growth and development, say, in the next decade? Where should I be positioned now if I want to take advantage of appreciation, best kind of appreciation? Because it's really about where you get started. If you're positioned in the right market now that you see, some future growth opportunities in a decade's time, that's an opportunity. So just to, give you some, context. So let's say there are some current towns or councils or cities or, where you can see development coming up and you're seeing that a lot more people will start to migrate towards those cities, right? Can you just give us more context about where you see those opportunities today?
Sure. I think that you don't need to be an economical perfectionist to know how these numbers work, right? You just look where people are moving to. It's really as simple as that. And where people are moving to, they're moving up north. So we call these the second and third tier cities. So they're the little brothers and sisters to London. So you've got Manchester, you've got Birmingham, you've got Liverpool, right? So a property in London that would possibly be around 500,000, you can get it in maybe Birmingham for 260,000, right? The rent you'll be getting in London, let's say £2,000 a month, but the rent you'll be getting in Birmingham, maybe around 1,400. You've bought higher in London, but the rent in London and the rent in Birmingham are quite similar. There's only like maybe £500 or £600 different, but you've bought £250 less in Birmingham. You'll get a better yield in Birmingham than you will in London. So the immediate income from Birmingham is a lot more, right? And also the capital appreciation, that's how much the property is grown by. It's going to go up a lot more in Birmingham because a lot of people are moving towards there. It's almost like an exodus of people, of movement going there. So those are the kind of numbers that I'm talking about. So whilst London is very, is appetizing, if you look at the numbers closely, maybe Birmingham is a better option to grow your money.
Right.
And for that money that you're going to buy one in London, you can buy two in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So you've got two properties now that you're getting 1,500 from times two, right? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. It's 300,000.
Yeah, about 3,000. Yeah, give or take.
So 3,000. Sorry, I'm thinking in big numbers. £3,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are two perspectives that I would like to, dig into here. One is perspective of an investor who is thinking, I'm thinking freedom, I'm thinking legacy, I'm thinking I want to give my children a leg up, right? And the second perspective is an immigrant or someone who lives in the UK right now and is thinking, oh, how do I begin to get myself positioned to, take advantage of opportunities right now? So from an investor's point of view, right, what will be your words of advice based on your vast experience? And I say that with context. Working with investors from different countries. What has been the best deals, and what has been the best transactions you have been a part of, right? Just to share your context and lesson.
So the question I ask my investors is that what we're trying to achieve here? Is it the preservation of the wealth, or is it to grow the wealth, right? So, people have different objectives that they're trying to meet. So if it's the preservation of your wealth and you don't really want to, look to capital growth, or you don't want that immediate income, maybe Central London, those people that don't want to come out of St. John's Wood, right? Okay, great. We will put it here. You're basically incubating your money. You're incubating it. Now, for the investor that has said that they want to grow their wealth and also preserve their wealth, we're going to look in areas where there's a regeneration. So it's not as desirable as the Central London, but there's things going in place to make it more desirable. So in the long run, between 5 to 10 years time, the area will really start to yield, a lot of money for you. So those are the two things I would say to investors as well. And I would also say that to investors, you have to be creative with your money, right? What worked, history doesn't repeat itself, but history moves in rhythms, right? Now, what worked, 20, 30 years ago may not be relevant to today, right? So sometimes you've got to get rid of those notions. You've got to get rid of, my auntie bought 30 years ago, 55 years ago. The world has changed since then, right? So we have to be open to options, open to creativity, because it's really creativity that's really putting that investor ahead of the market, because the market requires creativity. For an immigrant coming to the UK, I would say this: if you are already in the UK, you've been in the UK for like, I don't know, a year or 2 years or whatever, you would have been paying rent. The average rent in London or in the UK is maybe 1,500, right? Times that by 12, times that then by 2. You've actually had a lot of money in your pockets. Yeah. Always say, I don't have. No, you have. You do have.
Yeah.
But you're using it on something else. You're using it on the rent. You're using it on the mobile phone upgrades that you really do not need. You're using it, some people, not all people, using it to buy jewelry that you really do not need. So it comes down to that person of priority. What is your priority? And don't have misplaced priority. I always say to them, do not rob your future self. Be careful you don't rob your future self, because the decisions that you're making today are having an effect on yourself in 5 to 10 years' time, right? You need to now cut back. Cut back. It could mean that instead of renting an apartment, you rent a room. And it takes a level of humility to do that. But if you have that goal in sight, if you say, I will not rob my future self, right? By the time, in 2 years' time, I'm going to be in my own home. So I need to cut back in order to make that work. I think that's what you need to do. For example, when I want to buy an investment, my friends are not going to see me. I don't want to go to a party because it makes no difference. I see people, they're looking beautiful, but I know there's nothing in the bank account.
Wow.
There's nothing there. A friend of mine, she's amazing. She said to me, Sarah, I think you need to buy this handbag. I said, listen, my net worth is amazing. Trust me. I'm very asset rich. God be praised, right? But here is the thing. Most Black women in the UK have negative net worth. They're the only racial group that has a negative net worth. The Asians do not. The whites do not. It is the biggest group of negative net worth is Black African women.
Right, Sarah. My next question was going to be about women investing in real estate, and you took me right there. That's an interesting data point you shared. Black African women having negative net worth, right? Why do you think this is the case? Is it because they're not aware, of the benefits of investing in real estate, or they're not collaborating or co-investing with each other? What exactly is the problem here?
I think there's a number of problems, and I don't really buy into the whole notion that women have a lower risk appetite than men. As a woman, I know that when I want something, I'm going to get it, right? You know, we are that way inclined, and often nothing can stop us. But I think that, investing can be overwhelming, right? It can be overwhelming. And I think that the more we make it accessible to women, that's the problem, is the access. And often you find that because there isn't many access, because it's very dominated by men, some women just don't think it's important. And also, let's look at the way in which the family setup is. Because it stems down to our upbringing. Girls are groomed to be nurturers, and boys are raised to be conquerors, right? Often, not all the times, but often. Excuse me. And so what does that mean? What that means is that because of the way in which we are raised, it makes it difficult for women to talk about money, right? And I think that the sooner we are able to talk about money more in our homes from a young age, right? The way we talk about food, the way we talk about hair, the way we talk about jewelry, it will become second nature to us, right? Because women, we value things and we know how to make things grow, right? And we're very creative in our ways. And we have seen this in recent years in terms of the number of, or the increase in memberships, Women have money. They're putting their money where their mouth is. They're joining different membership programs. Women like communities. We do, and we thrive in communities. Now, the problem is, are these communities biased to action? Is there a call to action? Because then it becomes another social gathering.
Yeah.
I don't think we need any more social gatherings.
Mentorship.
I don't think we need any more mentorship. Right? We need sponsorship and we need call to action. We need to really, put our money where our mouth is, right? And we need to be in those environments that have that call to action, that creates a safe environment to really talk about numbers, right? To really, really pull it apart, because we are consumers. Women are consumers. Yeah. We often, not all the time, but women often run their households. Women, we are the engine room of our homes. Most of our money is spent on the maintenance, the upkeep of our home, right? Now, if your money is spent on the maintenance and the upkeep of your home, you're going to need more money when you're older. Because the man's money is not spent on the upkeep of the home. We're the ones in the heart of it that see the things that needs to be addressed, and we will address it very, very quickly because we are doers. Right? So women need more money than men. Women live longer than men, but women earn less than men.
Right.
So there's a problem there. And it's more expensive to be a woman. We get the hair done, we get the skin done, we get the feet done, we get the hands done. The list goes on and on. And I'm going to share this statistic with you. 80% of men die married. So that means that 80% of women are going to die single.
Wait, that statistic is based on what? The UK? That's
UK.
Okay, right.
That's it. The UK. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it is in Nigeria, but in the UK, 80% of men die married. So what that means is that if the woman is not well educated in talking about money, knowing how to move money, get money to work for her, she's going to be in trouble when that man dies.
Or if she's not collaborating with a spouse when they're alive, when he's alive, right? Because you also have to with a spouse, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we need to ask ourselves why. What is stopping us? Why is it that we have less money? Until you address that, and I know why the why is. The why is that women don't invest; they save.
Yeah, they save, they don't invest, right? But does this have to do with the circles they move in, right? Because if you move in a circle of women who are investing, no doubt you will invest. So maybe women need to get into better or new circles.
I'm going to say that is it, because I have different circles for different things, right? But it's funny because people make friends in their biases,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of your bias. So
Mm.
how you recognize your bias is that look at your 5 top friends and ask yourself this question. Do they look like you? Do they have the same lifestyle as you?
Most
Do they
likely.
do they believe in the same things as you do, the same principles as you do? Do they disagree with you, or do you normally agree on most things? Yeah, you've made friends in your bias. Sometimes you need to make friends outside of your bias, right? So I deliberately make friends with people who have an entrepreneurial flair,
Mm.
but they maybe don't believe in the same things as I do. But what I get from them is I get their perspective. I see their perspective allows me to see what I'm missing,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So you have to look at your circle of friends. Doesn't mean you must discard them, but you need to have friends for different reasons, right? And I
Mm.
have a social capital group of friends.
Mm.
Friends that in fact, not too long ago, I looked at all of them. They're all CEOs.
Amazing.
They are all, not one of them is doing a 9 to 5,
Mm.
right? And they have multiple ventures going on at the same time,
Yeah.
right? And they know where they're going to be. You know, if the plan is not working for the next, so they will have a 1 year plan or a 2 year plan. But if that 1 year plan needs to change in the next 3 months, they will change it.
Amazing. Right.
So
Oh,
you
I
need
mean,
that.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing these great points. And basically, it's very important that people, women, men, everyone thinks about owning real estate today, especially because it's such a great asset, stable, most likely to appreciate in value, and preserve wealth as well. So if they want to reach out to you, Sarah, Relboth, and Stephen, right, what's the best way? And what are your services? What kind of services do you provide for the different categories we shared, the beginner investor or seasoned investor who wants to get into a new market, or the immigrant as well? And do you have a circle they can join?
So we have, so they can first of all find us on Instagram. You know, it's Rehoboth and Stephen
Yeah, I'll put
on
that on the
Instagram.
screen.
You've also got my own personal Instagram page. I'm very active on there as well. And you've got our website details, you know, because sometimes seeing is believing. Now, in terms of the services we offer, Rehoboth and Stephen is a buyer's agent. So we acquire real estate on behalf of the buyers. And what that means essentially is that we mitigate the risks, we remove the risk because our value add is that you are paying for our experience, our eyes and our ears, right? And I personally have been doing this for about 16 years, okay? And you're also paying into our network. You know, you remember we were talking just now about your group of friends. You're paying for our network of, you know, agents, developers who know that we are deal makers and they will not give us the property at the premium.
Mm.
Not going to pay the premium for it because we want to make sure that from day one, we would like there to be capital in
Mm.
that asset for our clients. So we can help, you know, seasoned investors, you know, diversify their portfolio, maybe look and consider something that they never considered before, right? For the, what was the second category? Was it the immigrants?
Yes, immigrants.
Yeah, for the immigrants, you know, I would suggest co-investing, right? And there has to be an element of trust. But, you know, currently we've got groups of women who co-invest together for a period of number of years, and it's all, you know, legally binding. They set up a company, so it's not in any person's name, it's a company name. And that way they are putting their money to work. But I would also say that education is important for that person as well, right?
Yeah.
Because don't understand how something is going to help you make money, abuse is inevitable. Yes. So we will help you. You'll probably have to join the women's group. Yes. And we will take you on that journey to educate you with a view of allowing you to come into the co-investment group towards the end of the education, just so that you have that confidence in the real estate that you are then finally investing in.
Okay.
And was there another section?
No, I think those are the two key categories we define. But in terms of the women's group, right, what's the timeline for education? And when do I get to join the co-investment group? And do you have a minimum investment that is required?
Yeah. So for the women's group, it's normally 6 months. And what's happening there is mentorship. I'm very careful to say mentorship, because I think on another one. No, it's education by myself. So I'll go through it with you on a monthly basis. And at the end of that mentorship, you can then decide whether or not you would like to go ahead with it. But there is a seed investment, and that seed investment is around £20,000, right? So that's the seed investment. Now, there have been some people that say, oh, Sarah, I've only got £10,000, right? But then I can then top it up in the next 3 months. Absolutely. Look, the point that we're trying to make here is that we don't believe that women want to buy more stuff. We believe that women want freedom. And any way that we can help you get towards your idea of freedom, we want to do that. We don't want to be, an obstacle in your way. Okay. So we will see if we can move things about, but it's the education part is really important. And the seed investment is important. The reason why we do seed investment is because sometimes you've got to be tested on whether you can let that money go.
Right.
A lot of people say they can let it go. Okay, let it go. Invest it. Right. And this is the thing. If you can't let that money go, you should not be co-investing with somebody, because you're going to be a problem to that group. You're going to be that one person who keeps calling everybody. I want to sell. I want my money. Something has happened in the family. I need my money. No. That's not how this is going to work. We want serious, focused people who really want to go about changing their life. And so that seed investment is necessary.
Do you have a timeline for the seed investment?
It's about 12 months.
Right. 12 months.
Yes.
Right. Then after 12 months, do I have a choice to liquidate or to renew?
Yeah, you can liquidate it. Absolutely. Or you can renew it. Absolutely. Whatever it is that you feel you want to do. Sure.
Is there an interest payment on that seed investment?
Yeah. So the seed investment for £20,000, you will get 8% return on that investment a year.
Got it.
Yeah.
I can just renew that.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, that's me being very generous, because again, we want to excite you. There's no way in the UK you're going to even get 6%. You're not even going to get 5%. If you are a wealthy individual, you can, and that's very ultra high net worth, you probably get 4 point something. So we're being very, very generous because we understand that, sometimes you've got to give something for the person to understand.
True. Right. Is there any payment required to join this women group?
Just the seed investment, really. Remember, we want to...
After 6 months, right? Is the seed investment required at inception when I join, or it's after the 6 months?
No. It's required. Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. It's required at the very start.
Oh, got it.
At the very start. So as we're educating you, your money has gone to work, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. Let it go to work for you. You're now getting 8% of that. We're now putting your brain to work as well by educating you, right? So when you're looking at the investment, you're like, oh, it makes sense what Sarah is saying now. So everything is, coexisting together. It's happening simultaneously. If you do it the other way around, you still haven't unpicked, those things that are stopping you from investing. And remember, this is a call to action. It's not going to be for everybody, but we want the right pedigree and caliber of women who really want to go ahead and invest in real estate.
Do you also accept men? It's just women.
We do. Listen, I know I don't like men. And this is where the passion has sort of been birthed for me. Most of our investors are men. I would say 95% of our investors are men, and they're investing seeds like, there was one the other day, maybe like £2 million, £500,000, £750,000, and I'm just thinking, and I see what they're getting in terms of the return, and I'm just thinking, I know how much that Birkin bag was.
Yeah.
If you had just invested it in this, by the time you got the return on your investment, you would have bought that Birkin from the return on the investment, and but it is what it is.
So thank you very much, Sarah, for coming on my YouTube channel and sharing your depth of experience. And I'm looking forward to having more women join your group and become real estate investors and buying multiple properties, right? Same with me as well. I'm looking forward to building my own real estate investment portfolio, right? So thank you so much, Sarah. And this has been very insightful, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.